From London, I'm joined by freelance journalist Lizzie Phelan. Welcome to the programme. Lizzie, you've reported the news several times from Libya. With regards to that, I mean, we see that the war crimes that were committed by NATO during the Libyan war have been quite ignored, and they seem to be ignored up till today too. What is preventing a proper investigation and follow-up process on what really happened in Libya?
Well, you know, NATO went into Libya under a mandate to supposedly, well, they said to protect civilians. But obviously, when I was there for quite a long time, during the 8-9 months NATO bombardment of Libya, every day civilians were being killed by NATO, as your report correctly says. You know, I visited a girls' school that was bombed, the university in Tripoli, people's homes. Every single day, civilians were dying at the hands of NATO, and there was only one incident I believe it was in June, in which I think 15 people in Tripoli were killed by a NATO airstrike that NATO actually admitted responsibility for. The rest of the time they claimed that civilian targets were legitimate military targets with absolutely no evidence. And during the whole time, the former Libyan Jamahiriya government was calling for independent observers, international observers, to come in and to verify what was happening on the ground. But those calls were repeatedly ignored, and so as a result, we do not have any independent figures of the death toll at the hands of NATO, and that is just the casualties from directly from NATO. Of course, on the ground, there have been, and this is since the so-called fall of the government. There have been reports that have come out now from Amnesty and other human rights organisations, but we didn't need those reports. We could see with our own eyes what was happening on our television screens. There have been thousands of people who have been killed at NATO's proxies on the ground, the so-called rebels or the MTC or what have you, who have been systematically targeting, killing, imprisoning and torturing the many people who supported the former system. And, you know, it's a very prescient day for this information to come out, because there are many people who today will be commemorating that this is actually the date of the establishment of the Jamahiriya system inside Libya. So, it's really a very sad time that after many, many years of stability, on this day, the people of Libya aren't celebrating that day, but they are actually commemorating the loss of that system that brought them stability. And the result of the loss of that system has been the deaths of thousands of people, as your report has mentioned, at the hands of NATO and their allies on the ground, the rebels.
Indeed. Now, with regards to the issue of Syria, interestingly, many say that we will see another Libya take place in Syria. I mean, because of the fact that you've been on the ground in Libya for such a long time, how do you compare the situations in both countries?
Yes, well, I was also in Syria in January for some weeks. And there are many similarities between the two situations. Of course, the greatest similarity is that the so-called opposition movement, or the rebels, the insurgents on the ground in Syria, like in Libya, are also supported with arms, logistical support, financial support by the NATO and GCC states, mostly Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And, you know, we have seen, yesterday the defeat of the rebels in Homs was declared. And we have seen reports that hundreds of fighters from Libya, who now that they have succeeded in destroying Libya, have travelled to Syria to do basically the same thing there. And if you want to see, you're absolutely right, if you want to see what will happen in Syria, if NATO gets their way with destabilizing the country, you only need to look at the hundreds of thousands of people that have had to flee Libya, the tens of thousands of people that have been killed, the tens of thousands of people that are in prison and being tortured, the complete destruction of the economy, and really, you know, a complete anarchy. There is no government in Libya, and if the trend continues, or the aggression against Syria continues, it will be exactly the same in Syria, but it will be a very explosive situation for the region. And just, very recently we've had Obama saying that he wasn't bluffing when he said that he would be prepared to attack Iran. So not only is that, you know, in a very short space of time, the destruction of one sovereign state, Libya, the attempt at the very strong attempt at the destruction of another Syrian state, Syria, but already they're trying to roll on Iran. And, you know, of course, that will be disastrous, not just for the Iranian people, the Syrian people, and Palestine. It will be disastrous for the whole world because the situation will explode. So these are really very dangerous times that we're living through.
Indeed. On that note, we'll leave it there. Many thanks to Lizzie Phelan, freelance journalist from London.